Hello everybody and welcome to another episode of the Disgustingly Resilient podcast, and today's topic is obviously the launch of the Pariah Nexus, the new 10.5 edition as it's being called for Warhammer 40k. So it's a brand new game we're all walking into, and today we're going to go through some of the biggest changes, touch on some points changes, and sort of go for a really quick overall impression of what it could mean for us and going forward. Obviously, as videos come out, we'll deep dive this more into specific sections, so this is more going to be a bit of a generic overview of the entire thing. However, very quickly, if you do enjoy the content, please do remember to leave a like and a subscribe. It really does help the channel grow and also lets YouTube know you guys like the content. Engage in the comment section. Hashtag, I don't know, long live Indirect, put that in somewhere. So yeah, do that. And obviously we actually have a new affiliate link to go for Element Games. So if you were going to think about purchasing anything from Element Games, we'll have an affiliate link in the description below. If you use that link, you get a little bit of kickback for the channel, which is nice because it's going to help us buy the Death Guard Codex when it comes out, because we all know that's coming at some point. But yeah, let's jump into it for now. So Pariah Nexus. So it is being hailed as 10.5 edition because the changes are that overall scope quite large. So this is great. It's good because 10th launched in a messy state, and now we're having a lot of things that are changing the game to sort of make it better, make things clearer, and sort of going forward, it hopefully will be in a better state. Alongside this, we're getting a new mission deck as well, and this mission deck is looking to clean up some of the messier parts of the previous one, get rid of some of the worst parts of the previous one, and also try and incentivize certain things in the game, which is really cool. There's also been some core rule changes, as we'll go through each one, the major ones anyway. There is far too many for me to get every single one in this video. If you want a breakdown of everything, check out Warhammer, check out Vanguard, they got a good video on it all that kind of stuff. Check those guys out. We're going to go through the massive ones that majorly affect us specifically, and anything that I think is worth mentioning. But yeah, if I didn't do that, this video would be like 4 hours long. Obviously, to go alongside this, we have a balanced update, so a new balanced data slate. So armies have been rebalanced, there's been nerfs, there've been buffs. Not so much for us this time. We did get some changes, but it's relatively small compared to others. But what all this together definitely means is we're looking at a very different game, and 40k is going to be very different going forward. But you know, that's a good thing as well as a bad thing. It's bad because what we used to rely on might not work anymore, but it also means the game's getting mixed up, which stops the game getting stale, which is obviously good. Okie dokie, so let's get into some of the most important core rules changes. So I will have them on the board, on the screen, a screenshot of the actual rule itself. At the bottom, you can see a little bit of a description as to where that rule can be found if you need to go and find it for yourself. Maybe you want to show your friend why he can't action anymore with his Nurglings or his Spore Mine. But yeah, this first one is that actions have finally been defined. Previously, when we talked about actions, it was just units that had to give up shooting, charging, etc., but that were eligible to shoot in order to do some form of mission scoring thing. And we called them actions, but they weren't actually defined as an action. Now, thankfully, they have been defined as an action, and in doing so and defining what an action is, we get to add limitations and restrictions and what can do it and what can't do it. So let's go for it. So the following things basically prevent you from doing an action. For those who are going to do an action, each action states which units can perform it, when it's started and when it's completed, and what the effects of it completing are. Now, if a unit starts to perform an action until the end of the turn, that unit is not eligible to shoot or declare a charge unless it's a Titanic character unit, aka a knight. In which case, until the end of the turn, they cannot start to perform another action, and is not eligible to charge, so they can still shoot and action, which is quite nice for them. If a unit performing an action makes a move, excluding piling and consolidation moves, or leaves the battlefield, the action cannot be completed, therefore it is failed. So no weird out of phase movement, which means if someone is doing an action and you walk near and they go to trigger a 9-inch when you walk in 9 and they can move d6 reactively, that would cause the action to fail. So that's actually quite cool and quite unique, which is good because we don't have any of them rules, so it just kind of hurts other people. But The main thing on this is the units that can't do actions. So, aircraft, not really caring for us, but that's kind of standard. Nothing really too special there. If a unit's battle shocked, again, standard. We knew that was kind of the thing. That's fine. It has an OC characteristic of 0. Now that's big because that means units like Nurglings, Ripper Swarms, Biovore Spore Mines can no longer do actions. So no longer are our heroic Nurglings our 40-point Nurglings going to be doing stuff like teleport homers in the middle or in the opponent's deployment zone. Now that doesn't mean they can't score secondaries. There are some secondaries that don't require actions that they can still be good for. But when it comes to action requirements, Nurglings no longer can do actions, which is a big hit for us and kind of sucks. But at the same time, it also is the same for every other army that had these very cheap OC0 units. No longer a Spore Mine is going to be scoring 20 secondaries every game. Overall, I think that's probably a good change for the game. Does kind of leave those units in a weird place where it's like if they don't... Thankfully, Nurglings do offer other utility, but other units particularly don't. So it's like, what's their purpose anymore? But yeah, it is what it is. You can't action if you're in engagement range. So this means even if you have the pistol keyword, this is no longer going to allow you to action and score points. So pistol value has declined. That's not too bad because our Plague Marines don't innately have pistols, par the Sergeant. Now there really is no reason to never take the plasma gun. And obviously the Biologist Putrefier had a pistol, but again, who really cares? But, you know, it's a minor thing. It didn't tend to happen too often where you'd engagement with troops. The biggest impact this is on our vehicles, though. Our vehicles are no longer going to be able to do an action if they're in engagement range of an opponent. So rhinos, you know, been doing an action, they've now been charged, the unit hasn't killed the rhino, and the rhino's still in combat, and the rhino now can't action either. So this is going to be really important because it means you can tag vehicles that you can't even particularly kill, like 10 poxwalkers into like a rhino, for example. You're not going to kill it, but you're going to stop it being able to do any actions, which is really going to be good, and it's also really bad if it's done to you, so bear that in mind. If it is advanced or fell back, so assault ain't helping you anymore. Assault does not allow you to do a move, advance, and an action, so that is gone. Also, falling back prevents you doing an action, so unfortunately, our bloat drones are taking a hit because their rule allows them to fall back, shoot, and charge. So prior, this allowed us to fall back and still do actions. That is no longer the case, and they also can't do it in engagement range. So bloat drones aren't the sort of go-to amazing, always can do actions whenever needed unit. Which is obviously not great for us, but it also now turns them the opposite way around, where they're one of the best units to stop your opponent doing actions, because they can fly in, stop them doing actions because of engagement. If they fall back, they can't do an action. And then the bloat drone, if they stay in combat, it's free to just like float off and shoot and charge somewhere else and keep doing it. So it's really good. And if it is not eligible to shoot this phase, basically, if you've already shot the unit, you can't then do an action. And if you're already doing an action or something else that says you can't shoot, you also can't action at the same time. Overall, I am super glad to finally have actions defined. I think the changes to assault weapons pistols was good. It was stupid that because a guy had the ability to run and throw or run and shoot his gun, that allowed him to do actions. Overall, obviously, is a little bit of a nerf because our Biologist Putrefier no longer can do that. But at the same time, it's way worse for armies that had assault weapons everywhere. They can no longer just freely be advancing around. Like the detachments, for example, Firestorm Assault Force and the new Sisters one gives their entire army assault, and CSM Raiders gives their entire army assault. That no longer is the amazing scoring ability that it was. And I'm glad for that because, it doesn't really make sense. Just because your guy, for some reason, can run while shooting his bolter, he can now just do better at scoring the game. It always felt weird to me, and so I'm happy about that. And vehicles not being able to do it in combat is going to be very interesting, because again, locking up is now like a legitimate strategy. No longer can you just sit there with irons. It's a nerf to like Ironstorm all vehicle list, so anything to nerf them I'm happy with. But we do have to be a bit more careful about our vehicles being touched in close combat now, whereas before it'd be like, I'm a Plague Burst Crawler, I'm in combat, I'm just going to do my action, and the next turn I'll shoot you my flamers. So we have to be a little bit more aware of that. But overall, I am glad to have actions defined. I think this is a great thing for the game going forward, and I think it's just going to stop really weird, stupid interactions. So overall, really happy to have this defined. Less happy, but actually happy, to be fair. 1 second. So indirect fire has been changed. Basically, TLDR, when you fire indirect, An unmodified hit roll of a 1, 2, or 3 will always fail, irregardless of modifiers. What this means is that when we fire our Plague Burst Crawlers, even if we have Mortarians stood nearby, even if we have a Lord of Ruin spotting for the target, and even if we've used the Boil Blight stratagem and we stayed still, we will never hit on 2s or 3s whilst using Indirect. If you're shooting directly, that's not a problem. If you can see the target, you can still hit on 2s and 3s. But if you are firing Indirect, regardless of the millions of ways we have to like get around it, it will no longer work. You will only hit on 4s, 5s, and 6s. Now, this is a bit of a hit. Boil Blight players become less efficient. Mortarian's Aura becomes less efficient. Lord of Ruin becomes less efficient. However, it's not... I used to think it was... When I first reacted to this, I thought it was bad. And it is bad, like, to a degree. But to the same point, it just means our ability to trade passively with Indirect is nerfed. Which is fair, because Indirect is kind of toxic. Our Indirect could be nasty, but when you run into stuff like Guard, who are hitting on 2s with Manticores, or Sister's Exorcist, who like hit on 3s, and then it's all a million AP and whatnot, you realise we aren't really the reason this got done. But at the same time, hitting on 4s with Indirect is bad, but it's also not the worst. Like, we can still get it to AP2 ignores cover, which is still pretty good, but you are a lot more subject to the rolls of the dice, because you can just flub a lot of not getting many 4s. But when you do hit, it's still going to hit decently hard. Now, Plague Burst Crawler is still a decent unit, I believe. They didn't come down in points, which I kind of wish they came down like 10, 15 points. I think that would have made this feel a lot better, this change. But overall, Boil Blight plays were great, but were they the core strategy that was winning the games? Not really. It was just nice to have access to and threaten. And I still think Boil Blight plays will happen, because you're still giving it AP2 ignores cover, which is really nice. It's just... the hit rolls can be a little spiky, so I think you're going to need all 3 now to deal some damage to a unit, whereas before you could usually use 2, do a lot of damage to a unit, and then the last one you got to shoot elsewhere. But overall, it is a nerf, and unfortunately neither Morty or LOV got points drops to accommodate all rules changes, but it is what it is. I just think it changes how we play with Plague Burst Crawlers. The passive, indirect trading style is probably more dead, and like not encouraged to play with, which is fine, as we'll get into. There's other reasons for this, but don't take this as harshly as I did maybe at first on my stream, because again, I thought this was bad, and it is bad. Don't worry, it's not good. It's definitely not a buff. However, when you start playing, I've had a couple of games of Pariah now, and it's not too bad. It is workable, and it's definitely not the death of PBCs, take all 3 out your list. You could do that. There is a genuine argument for that now. I don't think they're auto take like they used to be, but I also don't think they're auto not take, if that makes sense. But yeah, be aware, this hurts more armies probably worse than it does us, like Guard. And yeah, you know what? For the sake of everyone else's fun in the game and to not make the game absolutely miserable, it's probably for the better. Pivoting. So, pivoting has been changed now whereas before, if a tank wanted to move around a corner, come here, Hecaton, you can help me for this one. So, Hecaton here. Hope he's up to camera. So Hecaton wants to drive and he wants to move around a corner. So this is work in progress paint. So he comes down, he wants to move around a corner. He has to pivot half an inch, half an inch, half an inch, half an inch, half an inch. He's lost like 4.5 inches there just to pivot in trying to get around a corner. It's very annoying, measuring every little thing. That's now gone. Now, if this guy needs to pivot, he just minuses 2 off his movement, and then he can perform as many pivots as he wants. He can literally 360 around a corner and go skirt and just like fly around the damn thing. Now, there are complications that have come with this. Anything that's on a circular base, like this, doesn't have to worry about pivot. That never costs them to pivot. Everything else does. So Mortarian, the question is finally answered, does not have to pay for pivoting at all. So great, that's good for Morty. A little buff there. Now I'm not going to get into the drama. There's drama about like Eldar vehicles because they are technically on round bases, but like this big and the hull overhangs massively. All I'm going to say is if you come across an Eldar player that is doing this, call him a dick. Because he's basically he's literally abusing a rule to gain advantage. And if you have to do that to win a game, sorry to say this, you're shit at the game. Fuck off. So please don't do that. Even if there was a unit in Death Guard that could do that, again, please don't do that. Let's be adults. It's, you know, we all know what the intent here was. So let's not abuse systems like that, please. Thank you very much. So, It is big though, because it means we're going to have less issues getting stuff like Plague Burst Crawls, Rhinos around walls, so it's going to give us a little bit more movement, which is nice, nothing too crazy, but you do have to bear in mind now, even if you want to make a pivot that is less than 2 inches, you're going to have to pay the 2 inches. It's not if you move 2 or more you pay 2, it's as soon as you pivot, so try and look for moving in straight lines still where possible, but it is still nice for us to be able to do it for like our Plague Burst Crawls, like I said, our Rhinos, to get Predators as well. Just going to let us get a bit more freedom, and overall, this is probably one of the harder topics to talk about. I think if used correctly and people just treat it properly, it's not actually that bad. You just go, okay, -2, I can do as many pivots as I want. Because it was really annoying to try and figure out how many pivots you need to get around a corner, etc. before, whereas now it's just -2. Unfortunately, people are going to abuse it. I've already seen YouTube videos marked as like, this amazing new Eldar. Eldar is now busted. It's like, guys, just don't do it. Just don't. Like, come on. Be an adult. But hey-ho. Yeah, pivot changes. They're decent. It's nice. Nice. I'm happy with this. I like the fact it's just like, hey, it's 2. Don't sit there with your tape measure and the other opponent being like, oh, no, that was half an inch. Oh, that's more than half. Now it's just, it's 2, mate. Done. Deal. So we'll see how that goes ahead, though, because they do need to fix some things with that. CP modifiers. So, not so much for us, this one. Unfortunately, because we don't get to use it, but we need to be aware of it. So, anything that allowed stratagems to be used for free now instead reduces cost by 1, which can make 1 command point stratagems 3, which is nice, and is no longer restricted to battle tactics only. Okay, so that means stuff like captains are going to be using a lot more stratagems, custodians are going to be able to use a lot more stratagems for a lot reduced cost, and a lot more 3. However, any clause that allows something to be doubled up on is basically gone. Unless specifically stated, you cannot double up on stratagems. So this does affect us because we can no longer do double grenade strat for the Biologist Putrefier. However, to compensate for that, the Biologist Putrefier has been given his ability once per turn. So no longer is a Biologist Putrefier only allowed to grenade for free once in a game. If he lives for all 5 turns, he can throw out 5 grenades, completely free, every single one of them, which is a nice little change. Now this is important because obviously it means our opponent's going to have access to a lot more free stratagems for the factions that do have it, so a lot more like free armor attempts and stuff coming out. But do bear in mind, there is no worry now about them doubling up on strats, so if they want to use that important strat on that unit, they're definitely not going to get to use it elsewhere, and the only benefit they get for using it on that unit is that it's going to have a reduced cost. Now, potentially more importantly, however, Vect. So what everyone known as Vect. Vect is what we called the ability to increase your opponent's CP cost to their stratagems. No longer is tied to battle tactics only, but now it's all instances of those kind of rules have been changed to the following Lord of Deceit aura. If you are within 12 inches of a model with this rule, and you go to use a stratagem, you have to increase the cost by 1. This is kind of brutal, because this means these characters, I mean, it's kind of good at the same time, because it means a Calidus Assassin can't sit in a corner, scoring secondaries, and then screwing you over. She has to actually be involved in a fight now to do something with the command points. So you know where the aura is and you can plan around it, but it's still going to be powerful knowing it's there. And basically, it's going to increase the cost of 1 for all those stratagems, which is really nasty if you're a melee army, because that means, like, if they bring, like, that forward into melee with, like, our Death Shroud, they can make Disgusting Resilient 3 command points, which is just grim. All our offensive ones 2 command points, and you're just not spending them at that point. So we do need to be aware of this. Quite a lot of armies out there that do have this effect, and I think they've probably gone up in value. Again, especially to how Pariah Nexus is going to be played, which we'll talk about soon. But do be aware, this is going to be something you have to be aware of, plan around, and you can also use offensively, like someone could walk up to you with this aura, put you inside it before they shoot you, which means now smoke, cloud of flies, all going to be 2 CP. So really need to pay attention to where these units are, and bear in mind, because it's 12-inch aura, they can deep strike and catch you in this aura. So watch your screens, watch everything like that, and do be aware this aura's existence. It's going to be painful. And here's another one. So redeploying units. So anything that was allowed to redeploy a unit was weird, because some of them were before you know who's going first. Some of them were before, after you know who's going first, and after obviously being far more powerful, because then you can go, oh, I'll deploy aggressively. Okay, let's see if I get first turn. Oh, no, I didn't. Cool, I'll just move them all back to safety. Or, oh, I got first turn. Cool, we'll just stay there and I'll just get aggressive. Now, all those abilities to redeploy units are done before the first turn roll-off. So you will never know regardless of if it says after the first turn, every single one is before the first turn roll. So redeploy abilities got a lot weaker. Fine by us, because we don't get any of them, and if we do, they usually suck. We don't think we'll get any anyway. It's not our army's kind of identity. So for us, this is really good. It means opponents can't just do stuff like that and get away with it free. They now run the risk of planning to go first and getting second and not getting a free out of jail card. So overall, it's a good buff for us. Do be aware of it. So if you come into your games against people that try to do this, you can be like, no, 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 sir. We roll for you decide now, and then we roll, which is going to be good for us because again, if someone wants to get aggressive, they decide to do it, and then they lose the roll off. We can really punish that. So that is overall a good change for Death Guard. And some generic stratagem changes. So Heroic Intervention is now 1 command point instead of 2. Super good. This was way too expensive at 2. Being 1 command point, you're genuinely going to consider using it. Really good for fight first Plague Marines because you can heroic in, and then because it's your opponent's turn, you have fights first. We will actually get to swing first on that heroic if we've got a Foul Blight spawn. So that's going to add a lot of value to those big units, 10 Marines with the Foul Blight spawn. And now being 1 command point only is going to be able to make it a lot more manageable, a lot more usable in game, which is really nice. So always look for Heroic Intervention chances now. Tank Shock has been changed. It's no longer based on weapon strength. It's based on the unit's toughness, and there's no +2 dice. This is great for us because outside of like the Hellbrute, the only like Tank Shock worth anything was a Defiler, and that Defiler's not being playable in UK. PBC's Tank Shocks originally were strength 6, you get 6 dice, potentially 8 tops. Now it being based on toughness, it means our PBCs are going to get 10 dice, which is actually respectable. You can average look for about 3 mortal wounds off that, which is going to be real good. Interestingly, weirdly, if we're against an opponent who wants to Tank Shock us, when they come in, they're -1 toughness, so they're actually going to have 1 less dice to roll at you, which is just kind of weird to think about, but that's how it works. So overall, Tank Shock's a great bonus. Bloat Drones love this as well, because it means your Bloat Drone, which were originally stuck with strength 6 or strength 7 with a flesh mower, you're now going to get 9 dice, which again averages 3 mortal wounds, so a lot more reliable Tank Shock from stuff like Bloat Drones. It's really nice for them. Next up, small nerf, Grenade. No longer can you fall back and grenade or advance and grenade. That is now gone. You must just walk normally and fire a grenade. No little cheeky plays like that. Again, kind of sucks a little bit because there was a lot of times when I would advance and grenade because I needed to get somewhere and it still let me have a little bit of output. No longer can I just fall back and grenade, which was great for like finishing off like a carnivore with a lot of contagion, which happened very recently. So it's a small nerf, but overall, I get it. They just wanted to get, like, you know, it was a weird interaction because technically you're not shot, and it doesn't care how eligible to shoot. It only cares that you haven't shot. Whereas now it's just like, no, get rid of those weird caveats. It's just a unit that has normally moved can grenade before they shoot. So overall, small nerf, but yeah, it applies globally to everyone. So I am fine with that. It is what it is. Respawning units. So some stratagems in the game allow you to bring back entire units back to life. This was important in like Guard and Tyranids. They are now just once per game. Good. I'm super happy with that. Endless waves of bullshit was really annoying to deal with and felt really unfair. You just felt you were killing stuff for no point. You were gaining no value. Those strats are now once per game, so no more will you have to kill 50 guard horses a game, or like 15 sentinels a game. They'll do it once and it's done. Happy with that, totally. It's probably going to hurt us a bit when we get our Terminus S detachment, which I'm sure we will. We'll probably only get Poxwalkers back once, but I can live with that because endless respawning stuff is mega annoying. And the last one, which is really important, the stratagem to basically get rid of one of your objectives when you draw it and redraw a new one is no longer once per game. You can now use that as many times as you want. As long as you want to pay the CP, you can redraw those things, which is really good for Death Guard because we, obviously not being the fastest army, we quite often could get a few dead draws, so being able to not worry about, do I blow more once per game, redraw, no longer have to think that way. You just think, okay, do I want to redraw it? So that's a really good change. Really happy for us on that one. So good, that's good news. Okie dokie, so Pariah Nexus. So let's get into this. So new primary missions, new deployments, new secondary objectives. has a focus on battle line units, and in general I think it's going to be a lot harder for people to start scoring 100s on this. This is great. I'm happy with this mission deck. The new deployments are interesting, they're not too different, but it does give us a bit more play. Certain more things can be sticky turn 1, which is quite interesting with scout, cultist and scout moves. The new primary are quite interesting. Don't worry, they're not all new. We'll go through them in a second. We've got some that are old and returning, some new ones that are coming in, but as we'll talk about them, you'll start to realize, like, I think primary is going to be a lot more important than it used to be. New secondary objectives in general, but again, we'll go through not all of them. We'll just go through the general feel of them. But again, I think the secondaries are probably a bit better. They're easier to score in general, but they're worth less at the same time, which is kind of weird. And overall, Pariah Nexus has a focus on battle line units. They want to try and incentivize armies to take battle line. A lot of armies would just skip battle line completely, like normal Marines. As Death Guard, we like battle line because Plague Marines are great. So having extra bonuses to our battle line, which were already great, is just even better. So happy with that. So that's all well and good. Let's get into it. So primary missions. So returning primary missions, we got Take and Hold, which is your classic hold 1, hold 2, hold 3. The ritual is back. Now, I know there's been a little change to make it so you can cheese it a lot less, because there was a bullshit way to cheese it that everyone always got 40 on primary. Now I think it's a bit harder. You have to play a lot more in the middle of the table rather than basically in your own deployment. Servo Skulls has been changed to Unexploded Ordnance. It's apparently been changed to be a little fairer rather than just like first turn wins. I still don't think you'll see it be played much in events because it's just a faff. Constantly moving models off objective markers to move the objective marker to put it back down. It's a faff. It's a time sink. It's not fun in the end. I mean, it can be fun, but it's just a pain in the ass, especially in tournament things. So I wouldn't expect to be preparing for Unexploded Ordnance. Scorched Earth weirdly gives a benefit to the second turn player. You can start to burn an objective in your last turn and it will complete automatically, which I find was good, but why can't the first turn player do it? It's kind of odd that they can't burn, because they still have to wait the entire opponent's turn till game ends. Whereas the second turn player, literally the first turn player could never react to it. Like, they're just going to walk onto objective on the final turn and burn it and guarantee they get an extra 5 points. Just kind of weird to me, that one. You're really going to defend your home objective on that final turn, because if they can get onto it and burn it, there's literally fucking nothing you can do, and they're going to bank like an easy 15 points off that. So just do beware of that one. Purge the Foe returns, the only difference being that turn 1 is no longer scores a kill more. Still scores a kill 1, but you don't get kill more. This is to stop first turn being punished so hard, because quite often first turn would move out, get onto some objectives, and then the person going second would be able to like kill a small unit like scouts or cultists, and then they would score kill 1 and kill more and get an 8-point advantage straight off the get-go. So that's now been nerfed to maximum of 4-point advantage. And supply drop is still here. So supply drop still unchanged, disappearing objectives, it's still here. New primary. Linchpin. Linchpin is an interesting one where your no man's land objectives and your home objective are worth 3 victory points. However, whilst you hold your home objective, the no man's land objectives are now worth 5 victory points each. So a lot of incentive on holding your home objective, which in most games is, you know, fairly straightforward. And it does weirdly incentivize you wanting to push your opponent's home objective, and if they do lose it for a turn, that could be a big swing of points. They're going to lose the 3 from the home, and then anything they hold outside of it are only going to be worth 3 instead of the usual 5. So you really have to make sure you don't get your home objective stolen, and I genuinely think stuff like Plague Burst Crawlers still have value because of stuff like this, because it means an opponent can't leave crap on home, because if you mortar it off and take it off them, they're then going to have a massive points drop, which is really good. But overall, I think this one's probably one of the less interesting ones. Quite often in games, home objectives don't tend to get stolen unless you're a very fast army, which we're not exactly, but people don't tend to push into Death Guard too much because, again, our damage output when you're close is horrendous. So overall, I think Linchpin's alright. I think it's fairly safe. I don't think you'll see too much trouble with that. Terraform's interesting. So every objective is worth 4 victory points. You can permanently do an action on an objective which you have to survive through your opponent's turn as well to terraform that objective. Once it is terraformed, it can no longer be terraformed again by you or your opponent, and that will score you 2 victory points a turn for every terraformed objective. So if you get a turn where you get like 2 terraform objectives out of the 5 done, you're going to get a lot of victory points over the game. So bear in mind you have to survive for your opponent's turn, so there's going to be a real big incentive to be aggressive and stop these terraforms happening. And you can't be passive in this one, because you just let your opponent terraform for free, then they're going to run away with an advantage over you. So it's really going to be interesting on terraform. I think it's good. Potentially has a bit of issue with first turn being able to get onto objectives and start immediately terraforming, which can be quite hard for a slow army like us to react to that on turn 2. But we'll have to see. Again, makes me want to like look at PBCs again, because PBCs can actually interact with that, possibly. We shall see, but do be aware it's going to be important to be aggressive, just trying to stop terraforming happening, whilst also ensuring that our own does go off. And the last one is Burden of Trust. I played this one already. It's quite interesting. Your home objective is worth no victory points to yourself. Obviously, it's worth to your opponent. 4 victory points per other objective, and from the second battle round forward, you can declare units to guard an objective. If that unit that was chosen to guard is still alive and holding that objective at the end of each turn, so yours and your opponent's, you get 2 victory points. So 10-man fight versus Plague Marines, pretty fucking good at this, because you're going to sit on a point, you know, I'm going to guard that, you want to charge me, I'll fight first on an infected objective, I will twat you back to the Shadow Realm, and basically I will, but if you don't do anything about it, I'm going to score 4 extra victory points every battle round, because I hold it in my turn, I hold it in your turn, 2 each, 4. That over 4 turns, 4, 8, 12, 16. 16 VP for holding 1 objective. 1. That's just the bonus CP. Then obviously you get the 4 for holding it for 4 turns. So that's 4, 8, 12, 16 again. That's 34. 34 VP for holding 1 objective every damn turn. So it's going to be really important to deny your opponent their objective and make sure you hold your own. So yeah, it's a fun mission. It's cool. In top of this, there are some new mission rules. Battle line bonuses. So a lot of missions have bonuses to battle line. This includes free go to ground and heroic intervention. Insanely good. Like, really good. Get cover and it 6 up invuln. And heroic intervention for free on our Plague Marines. Incredible. 1 extra VP for holding objectives with battle line. Again, Plague Marines. Real solid. Extra 1 VP. Why not? First turn reserves of up to 200 points. So you can bring on, you know, a cheeky, like, 5-man Plague Marines and a caster. And blow something away. Why not? We'll see how that goes. Action and shoot / melee and action. So basically the equivalent of having old, like, pistol and being able to shoot whilst actioning. Really good for Plague Marines, because, again, they really want to be, like, doing all that work. And then the last one is being able to advance and fall back and still action, which is going to be great for Death Guard when it comes up, because again it's going to really help us out in our mobility and our ability to get onto objectives and start doing stuff for actions and secondaries. So all of these bonuses are great. Like, there's nothing bad. The worst one's probably first turn reserves. How good will it be? We'll have to see. But all the others are amazing, and I'm always going to be happy to have them. And I really hope tournaments use these damn rules. No more Chilling Rain. Let's get some bonuses for battle line. Woo! Big up battle line. That's what I want in the comment section. Big up battle line. New generic bonuses. So there's, again, another one where you draw an additional tactical card and then you can discard one. But you can also do it for a fixed one. You can swap a fixed mid-game, which is kind of interesting. I don't see fixed being taken by us especially. But again, it's interesting to think about. Another one is, for the first turn, every unit has cover, but nobody can use core stratagems. This is interesting because it means no turn 1 Overwatch, no turn 1 CP reroll, no turn 1 Heroic Intervention, no turn 1 grenades. It's weird because you can get ran down by like World Eaters and they don't have to pay respect to any of your flamers at all. So we're going to need to bring screens for that kind of stuff. So be aware, that's a very scary one when you play it. And there's another one where your Warlord has a 9-inch aura of +1 leadership if he is visible, which is cute. It's nice. Kind of feel bad for the armies that are like all about battle shock. It's like another thing to make it kind of worse. But again, it's only within 9. You had to be visible, so it's not a big deal overall. So another. So that's the primary. Let's go quickly over the secondaries. I'm not going to go into them each one. I'm just going to sort of talk about generically. In general, they're worth a lot less VP in general. So, for example, Teleport Home is now only worth 2 in the middle rather than 3 that it used to be. And I think it's 4 on your points point instead of 5. There's other things where basically all sorts of like secondary scoring has kind of been toned down a bit. There's no longer bonuses, so you don't get like +1 if you're doing tactical. That's kind of gone, which is interesting. So they're not, as we'll see in a second, with the less harsh scoring conditions, a lot of the secondaries are easier to score. They just don't give as much. So for example, investigate signals was a pain in the ass because you had to be in the corners of the board. That's now changed. It is now be within 6 inches of a board edge. So you can be anywhere along the board edge, just as long as you're within 6 of the board edge. This is a lot better for us because it means we're going to have a lot more access to be able to score this. We don't have to leave a unit in a corner where it'll never get back into the game because it's dead slow. We can be aggressive, push up, and still be able to do this action, which is great. And stuff like engaging all fronts, and you no longer have to be 3 inches away from another quarter. Just don't be near the center of the board. So in general, they are easier to score in that sense. Like they're less harsh and restrictive. They're not easy to score in general because we'll talk about the survival of a unit. But the restrictive bullshit's kind of been removed for a lot of them, which is really nice. Less dead draws. So a lot of cards have been reworked to say, hey, if you drew this first turn, like Capture Enemy Outpost, they finally understood that not every army is Thousand Suns or Eldar and can move 25 inches turn 1. Some of them are Death Guard, like us, and have to play an honest game where we move 5. So a lot of cards have been given caveats that basically say if you draw this and you can't, turn 1, it's impossible, you can discard it and redraw it. And stuff like, again, bring it down. If your opponent has no vehicles, you can redraw it, which is really nice. All sorts of things like this just make less dead draws, because that was the most frustrating thing, to either lose a game or to not get enough points in your win because you just couldn't draw a card that could physically score points. It's going to happen a lot less often, a lot less dead draws, which is far better for the enjoyment of the game and less frustrating moments for you. However, a lot of these secondaries now require survival of a unit. So whereas before, an action for a secondary might just said, you got to live to the end of your turn. Now it might say till the start of your next turn. So that means your opponent has an entire turn to interact and stop you scoring that secondary. That's obviously a big deal because now shutting down secondary points is a lot more of a viable thing. You can be aggressive, punish people, and they can do the same to you. So do be aware that is something that has massively changed with secondaries. And a lot of them require a hell of a lot of actions a turn. Like, for example, there's one now which requires you to do a action in your deployment, in no man's land, and in your opponent's deployment. That's 3 units doing an action. Then at the same time, you could draw one where you got to do actions and board edges. That wants another 4. That's 7 units to max those points. 7 units. 7. I can't do it. 7 there. 7. The sacred number. To score max on those cards that turn. So you're going to need action units. It's going to require a lot more actions per turn, which is going to be very, very interesting. But at the same time, those units might have to survive into your opponent's next turn, which means they can't just be cultists, as we'll see. So overall, it's going to be very interesting. A lot more scoring focus is going to be required, less big 500-point Death Star spam. Okay, so what does all this mean though? What is all these changes to primary and secondary going to affect? So my initial thoughts, and again, I've only played a couple of games, so these could change, but right now, from my feelings, we need a lot more units that are going to action. So this means less large units and more MSU is going to be quite nice, because we're going to have to do a lot of action to score these points. Battle line buffs are nice, they're not critical, but I think if you already had battle line that was worth taking, spoiler alert, we did, that these buffs only make them even better. So super happy to have strong battle line in our army. Durability is really going to matter in this because not only do you need to now do actions and hold primary, but you really need to be able to survive. So this incentivizes less units like cultists to do actions and more wanting to play like 5-man plague marines and stuff like that, because you want to make sure you give yourself the best odds that your actions aren't going to get interrupted by your opponent and stopped. And I feel like having 10 6-up 1 wound guys is probably going to be quite easy for your opponent to shut down if you're relying on them. Now, I don't think cultists are bad. I still think you want cultists, but it's just you need some durable units as well to be able to do those actions and score those victory points. Because if you don't bring them, you're going to get shut down quite easily. I genuinely think aggression is going to be rewarded so heavily, which is uncomfortable for me because I'm a very passive player when it comes to trading, etc. But a lot of this and a lot of the mission design wants you to be aggressive, it wants you to be stopping actions, it wants you to be flipping primaries, because it wants you to be, like, you declare a guarding unit, that means your opponent wants to come push you and take you off that objective. So I think we're going to have a lot of mid-board brawling be happening, and a lot of aggressive plays need to be made, and we will have to build for that. So we're going to have to change up how we approach the game, and if you're like me with a more passive defensive playstyle, sorry guys, it might not be our time to shine, and we might have to take a book out of Will and Death Guard Days pages and get a little bit more aggressive, but, you know, change, adapt or die, mate. We got what we're going to do, but I'm sure we'll be fine. And secret missions, again, viability. I think they potentially could be viable. I don't think you ever want to be in a position where you're planning to make one. I think that's more of a teams format thing. And again, I mainly focus on singles, but if people are interested, we can touch on it a lot more. But right now, I think generally you're going to want more action units. Battle line's still going to be really strong. Durability really is going to matter a lot more than it used to. And we're going to be really rewarded for being aggressive on the missions. So impacts on the game. I think MSU, which stands for minimum sized units or multiple small units, I think there's going to be a stronger desire for more units for actions. Because again, that example before, 7 actions in a turn, you can't be taking lots of 10-man units and like large Blight Lord breaks or large Death Shroud units, because they just cost a lot of points. And when you have units like that, like for example, Blood Angels like to take 30 Death Company, they have that, which is great, but then they have like 6 scoring units. And when they start dying, they're going to have to start using stuff like Death Company to do actions, which is not what you want to be doing, especially because victory points in this are going to be a lot tighter, a lot harder to come by, so every VP really is going to matter. So for this, you're going to want lots more minimum-sized units, I think. I think it could be the time of the 5-man Plague Marine squad. I already used 2, I think they're still really good, but maybe we look at like splitting up our 6-man Death Shrouds into multiple 3-man Death Shrouds, that kind of thing, because it might be important. And to top this off, I don't think Chaff is going to do it. Chaff isn't going to be enough. Again, these units have to survive through your opponent's turn, which means it's going to be really important for you to bring units with a bit more durability, like Plague Marines, like 3-man Death Shrouds, even 5-man Blight Lords with the points drop they got. There's an argument to be said that they're just cheap for the durability, regardless if their output's dog shit. They can just come in, stay alive, score actions. So maybe there's a play there. We'll have to do some experimenting, but I don't think 10-man Cultists is going to be enough to secure your scoring like it was before. Still think they're good. Still think you're going to want at least 1 unit, but you can't just rely on them to be the I'm going to be like Boil Blight utility and like score like 10 VP before I die kind of thing, or deny opponent. But yeah, passive indirect playstyle is going to struggle. Genuinely think that aggression is going to be rewarded. Indirect nerf on top of that. Plus, we need to be stopping our opponent's actions, and unfortunately, battle shocking an opponent while they're mid-action doesn't actually stop it, although I think that would have been really cool, but probably a bit toxic. So I think we're going to have to be a lot more aggressive, go into a mid-board brawling playstyle, which we're good at, to be fair, but I think a lot of more armies are going to be willing to brawl with us as well, because they're going to be wanting to do the same. People that understand the game are going to understand that because secondaries are worth less, the real difference is going to be on primaries, and denying your opponent primaries is going to let you get ahead, and then all those little gains are going to add up. And I think this is going to incentivize us to actively attack our opponent's primary and really try to cause some damage on the scoreboards. So that's going to have to be reflected in how we play and how we build our lists. So strong units. Very quickly, again, we'll do a tier list of units. We'll talk about them all there. But very quickly, Plague Marines are still stupidly strong. It's a battle line unit. It's going to get those buffs. It was already strong. The OC is going to really matter for flipping primary and being aggressive and stopping our opponent's scoring. And they're obviously a very good, strong, brawling unit. Fights First is great for defending objectives. It's also great for just not getting charged into. They're a jack of all trades. Their points didn't go up. Their characters attached to them did go up by 10 points each. So you're probably still going to take them, I'll be honest. But the Plague Marines themselves didn't. And I think 5-mans are also going to be really good for just, again, being durable action guys for 90 points at T5, free up save. It's going to be pretty solid. Bloat drones and haulers, both 90 points now, which is really nice. Super efficient. They're just so efficient. Like, even if their output is meh sometimes, they're just really efficient. They've got better tank shock now as well to help them out. Their unit has a really good chance to be able to do actions and survive and get away with it, which is really, really, really nice. and they're going to become a great disruption tool to stop things doing actions. You charge in to just tie any old thing up, knowing who cares about damage. You know now it can't action in combat, and it can't action after falling back. And then if it stays in combat, in our turn, we're just going to float away and do it again. We're going to shoot something and charge something else. So they're going to be really good for 90 points again, and that's for both of them. Again, the haulers don't get the fallback shooting charge, but again, they can just charge into something. It's 90 points for a really tough, annoying unit for its points. Anyway, it's not super tough, but it's tough for its points. Like, worst case, you lose 90, and they're still going to be great for doing stuff like trading. For 90 points, you really can't complain about bloat drones and haulers. MSU Death Shroud. Again, really good durability, especially with a leader. They've got a fairly small footprint, only 3 models themselves for the leader, and they just have the -1 to be wounded. They've got 2 up, 4 up, T6, 3 wounds each. They can come in, they can do actions, and then you can, like, you know, threaten overwatches, threaten rapid ingresses, threaten charges. And again, it's 120 points for 3. Putting a character, it's 200 points. It's not a very expensive package, but I've had games recently, especially at the teams event, a doubles event recently. 3 Death Shroud and a Lord of Contagion can kill 10-man play death companies and a chaplain. That is like a 360 point unit killed by a 200 point unit. Super good at trading, can hit really hard with a Lord of Contagion there, which is, he's really growing on me. And in the worst case scenario, they can just deep strike in, start scoring a action on a secondary, and they're going to be really hard to dislodge because of their defensive stat line, which is really, really good for them. Now, slightly nerfed units. Marty and LOV, obviously value has been lost in the Indirect build. I still think LOV is crazy good for bringing free rolls to wound. That was his main ability. The Indirect buff was just a side bonus. Marty took a bit of a hit to his aura, but it's still going to be useful, especially with all the free stratagems that are, well, reduced stratagems that are now available, because it's not just battle tactic. So Marty could still see some value. Plague Burst Crawlers, again, kind of wish they went a bit cheaper, but they're still usable. It's still a really solid unit for toughness 10 and a 2-up save, and Indirect is still going to be useful, because if our opponents want to bring those cheap shit units to do their actions, we're going to still be able to kill them like scouts pretty easily. So it's still really good for that. And it's just a chunky tank. T10, 2-up save, always getting cover, because you're a vehicle, you're going to get cover. You'll find a way. It's annoying. It's an annoying profile. Bit expensive, but still 100% usable. Don't be down on them. I'm still running 3 at the moment. I'm still finding them great. And maybe there's more play for flamers now to use them as aggressive battering ram bumper cars like they used to be. So, yeah, they're still solid. They're still solid. Biologist and Foul Blight Spawn, they both went up 10 points each. You're still taking them. It doesn't change anything. They're still the best Virion characters, by far the best thing to give to Plague Marines. Though I wouldn't probably run 3 of each now. I'd probably take 2 maximum of each, because an extra 60 points is a lot. An extra 40 is a lot. 20 is what I've gone up by, because I only use 1 of each. But I still think you want at least 1 10-man unit, because the utility it brings to the game is really good. Fight First is strong in general. And obviously Nurglings, no actions are allowed for Nurglings. However, that does not mean they're useless. Infiltrate is still really good. It means that we can guarantee get our scouts off of our cultists. It also prevents scout moves for armies like World Eaters. It can move block, still got a -1 to hit aura. And there are still secondaries they can score, like behind enemy lines. There are secondaries that do not require actions. They're still perfectly fine to score that. But do be aware they are no longer the jack of all amazing, like 40 points, slam it in, easily gets you some VP, worst case scenario. So you have to be a little bit more careful with them, a little bit smarter with them. But yeah, a quick list of archetypes, and again, there'll be a list building stream coming up soon, so we're going to talk about it on there a bit more. But these are just off the top of my head right now from what I can think of, what I want to try. Mass engine, go wide. Again, haulers, bloat drones, just go wide with a lot of vehicles, a lot of shooting. That could be really good. It's not really my kind of thing, but I can see that being strong, because again, durable units that are like 90 points to like all the vehicles just go and do actions. Rhino Rush, battle line, 60 Plague Marines and 6 Rhinos has always been strong. They only got better. You can just apply a lot of pressure on your opponent. Again, aggression is going to be rewarded, so constantly just tanking your opponent's ability to score and get out and just be on primary with Rhinos and Plague Marines is going to be really strong. I think Toolbox MSU playstyle, my personal playstyle, is going to be pretty good at the moment. Having MSU units allows you to score actions quite reliably. Again, I have to mix up the MSU I'm taking, more durable MSU instead of just cultists and stuff like that. But I think overall it still has play, and I think we've still got our tricks, which is really nice. High pressure list. This is, I think, where Morty's new home is, no longer the Indirect build. I think Morty now runs really aggressive with stuff like maybe like a large knight, because they can now walk through walls, which is terrifying. And then you go like triple bloat drone with him, and then some PBCs to push up and some rhinos. Basically just a lot of aggression in your opponent's face. What do you shoot? Do you shoot Morty? Do you shoot the knight? Do you try and crack the rhinos? And then, oh god, it's on top of me, because again, aggression is going to be rewarded. So I think that's Morty's new home, is to be that aggressive front line of being like T12, 2 up, 4 up, 5 up, feel no pain. So I think Morty can find a place in list still. I just think it's no longer the babysitting 3 Plague Burst Crawler style. It's more pushing forward, take the shots on him, and then if they kill Morty, you just crush him with the rest of your army. If they don't kill Morty, then Morty gets to free roam in their deployment zone. And the last one potentially is Plague Storm. So taking an Iron Storm approach, you'll go in triple Predators, triple Plague Burst Crawlers, like triple Brigands, maybe like a big knight with some dual, despoiler with dual battle cannons potentially. Going like a big gun line, shooty death. That could be interesting. Sort of just going pure like power and output to try and kill your opponent off the board. I think this could struggle a little bit when it comes to secondaries. You'd have to definitely take the squishier action people like Cultists and Poxwalkers. Again, listen, there's a discussion as well. Poxwalkers versus Cultists now. Poxwalkers being a little bit tougher could be enough to make them good. But it'd be interesting to see. I do want to try out. I don't personally want to try out, but I want to see someone take a knight with like dual battle cannons. Being able to walk through walls and shoot is a really strong buff for that. I'll get Will or Death Guard Dave to give that a try. Death Guard Dave just bought a knight, so that'd be cool to see. But yeah, I think these are probably the ones that come into my mind at the forefront of what will be good. And I think there's still, like you can see there, there's loads of variety still. There's loads of different ways to approach this army, take it and find success. Are you going to win Super Majors? Probably not. I don't think the army's a Super Major winning army. But that doesn't matter. Like, you can still have fun. You can still do really well with this army. And I genuinely think you can win GTs, you can win RTTs, you can have fun with the army, and there is different builds for the army. Don't feel, I saw a lot of people like, oh, you got to take Brigands, you got to take Brigands, you got to take PBC. No, you don't. You just stop reading shit on the internet. Just go actually play stuff, learn to play the army, and you'll realize there's a lot more to it and a lot more fun that can be had inside the army itself. But yeah, to summarize in this one, because it's already been quite long, this one, I think we're going to need a balance between aggression and scoring. Aggression is going to be really important. Take our opponents off primary, deny their actions while also scoring our own. But to do that, we're going to again need a bit more. We need a bit more durable units potentially to do those actions. But again, we need to make sure we are bringing enough units to score, but also enough units to be aggressive and kill our opponent. Large units might struggle. Maybe I'm wrong. Could be. I've been wrong before. It happens. But my initial reaction is that big, large, expensive units are going to be like limited to like one-offs, and the rest you're going to need because there's just so many actions that need to be done to get those scores. And I think if you're going to go with a large unit, you want durable large units. So like 6-man Death Shroud's still pretty damn good because it's got the durability there. But like spam of 10-man Plague Marines, we'll see. We shall see. I think it might be the time of the 5-man squads to shine a bit more. I still think 10-mans you're going to bring at least one. Still really good. But like, I don't think you're going to be just spamming large units. Like again, the Blood Angels analogy, I don't think you're going to see 30 Death Company anymore because again, they're just not going to have stuff to be able to score, and that's going to be really important. Unless they're just planning to table you, in which case, like, sure, try, but that's not going to work in every game. But we'll see. Proactive aggression, be aggressive, time to get up in our opponent's face. Don't just run out in the open though. Like, I'm not saying do that, but you have to have a game plan for attacking your opponent's primary. Because if you just sit back and they do it to you and you don't apply pressure back to them, you're going to lose that game. Because secondaries are worth harder to score and you're not going to get as many points on that. So you really have to focus on getting that primary scoring up. Knight players out there, sure thing, I'll say. Knight has got interesting. The change is really good to allow super heavy walkers to walk through terrain. It's really good if you enjoy Knights. Like, a double weapon despoiler actually looks pretty fucking good right now. I won't lie. I ain't gonna run it. I don't really think I'm gonna run it because I like to play pure Death Guard. But there are people out there that do like Knights, and I think that genuinely, if you like the big Knights especially, now is the time to give it a shot and get it onto the table. But overall, I think we can adapt to this meta. I think we have got the play to do it. And we can 100% win. Don't be dooming out there. I think we are going to be we might drop 1% or 2 on the win rate, probably down to like 47, 48, which isn't bad, by the way. That is a fine win rate. But I think we'll recover, and in the end, I think we'll probably just reach the 49, 50% win rate that we're already at. So I wouldn't worry too much, everyone. I think we're still going to be fine. I think everything will work out. we shall see. But stay positive, keep practicing, keep engaging in positive discussion about the army, sharing your experiences, what works, what doesn't. We all learn together, which is great. But yeah, and everyone remember, a win for Death Guard is a win for this lovely boy here, Kirby. But yeah, thank you so much for watching, everyone. Again, check out our plenty of people now. So we have Saltire Games. If you're after some gaming aids that are disgustingly resilient themed, they have a link in the description to their Etsy store where they basically sell customized gaming aids. So contagion markers, deep strike markers, objective markers, all that kind of stuff. Check them out. Anything you buy from them gives a little bit of kickback as well using promo code NERGL. Check out Vanguard Tactics. I am a coach for VT. They sell loads of different courses like Learn to Play Warhammer, Accelerator courses, masterclasses. The academy will probably be opening again sort of soonish, so you want to get on that. So check them out. Lots of good content. Or just check out the YouTube channel. They've got loads of cool content there, loads of fun battle reports. Death Guard Dave did play on there like a month ago now or something like that. It was a really funny game. Check it out. He made Stephen Box cry, which was kind of funny. Thank you, obviously, to our YouTube members. You guys keep the lights on. You guys are legends. I really appreciate you so much. I've got to say love you then, but that was a bit intense, wasn't it? But I really do appreciate you guys and all the support you give us. If you do fancy becoming a member, please check out the join link below. You do get access to our Discord, which is, I may have giveaways, which we just had one recently. And we're going to have another one going up very soon. And last but not least, again, if you were interested in buying anything for yourself, for your collection, any Plague Marines, Blight Lords, Terminators, Death Shroud, tanks, anything, check out our affiliate link below for Element Games. If you're going to order from there anyway, you can use the affiliate link, get yourself some gems, and give us a little bit of kickback again on the channel, which is going to help us buy those shiny new Death Card Codex when it definitely comes out, which I definitely don't know the date for. Genuinely actually don't know the date for, but you know, I'm hopeful. But thank you so much for listening. I will catch you all in the next episode. Stay right on, guys. Take care. See you later. Bye.